Welcome to the Legal Networking Forum. My name is Christine Mantillo with South Coast College. This virtual networking event brings education, local resources, and connections to the community. We value creating great business relationships, opportunities, resources, and creating connections. My guest today is John Corcoran. John Corcoran is a co-founder of Rise25, which helps B2B start podcasts. He's also a recovering attorney, a writer, author, father of four, and a former Clinton White House writer and speechwriter to the governor of California. Throughout his career, John has worked in Hollywood, the heart of Silicon Valley, and ran his own boutique law firm in San Francisco Bay Area, catering to small business owners and entrepreneurs. So welcome, John. Let's begin. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, Christine, thanks very much for having me. I love, that you are helping legal students in the legal community. I think that's awesome. I practiced law for a bunch of years. Now what I do is I help B2B businesses to start podcasts and to do it for business development, for networking, for creating content, that sort of thing. But years ago, I was practicing law and I just started by creating a podcast for my legal practice. And I found it was an amazing tool for connecting with clients and referral partners and strategic partners and business owners in my community. And I've loved doing it ever since. So that's what we do now.
So how did you find podcasts in the midst of being an attorney working in law?
I know, right? Yeah. No, I mean, I just started listening to other podcasts. I knew some people that did some podcasts, and it was just at the time people were talking about it and I was curious about it. I'd done a little bit of radio in college, just a tiny little bit. So I had a little bit of the background. My dad actually had done radio when he was younger too. So kind of had that background. So I was just kind of curious about this new medium, but I started super simple. I just literally emailed a good client and said, hey, I'd love to interview you over the phone or I did video Skype at the time, recorded it, didn't even know how to do anything with it at the time, didn't know how to upload it or anything, basically kind of figured out a way to upload it to my website. But after that, he was like, hey, that was a lot of fun. I got some more legal projects that maybe you could work on. And I was like, well, it worked really well. Let's keep on doing this. And I've been doing it ever since.
Very, very cool. So can you talk a little bit about the Hollywood, the writing in the White House, off to that? Like how did...
Yeah. I have a weird career path, weird career trajectory. So I grew up in LA, north side of LA, San Fernando Valley, Calabasas area, a Kardashian country, as some people call it. And I worked in a little bit in politics and a little bit in Hollywood. So I worked for DreamWorks a little bit in college, and I did an internship in the White House speechwriting office, and then went to college, UC Santa Barbara, and graduated, and then ended up getting a job at the White House as a writer in presidential letters and messages. I kind of refer to it as like a second string speechwriter. Like we wrote all the stuff that the speechwriters didn't want to write. And so it was great. I was 23 years old. I had a BA in English and I was writing the president's words, which is pretty cool. And I loved it. And then went on to be a speechwriter for a governor of California, and then ended up going to law school because working in politics, you work with a lot of lawyers and a lot of people who have law degrees. And if you haven't been to law school like me, you tend to lose arguments to them. And I was like, you know what? I think I need to go to law school. So that's how I ended up going to law school. And I also knew that, getting a legal degree, I didn't know exactly what I would do after college or after law school. But I knew that having a legal degree would really help me to figure out the world. I knew that the people that had law degrees, they could figure out problems. If they didn't have the answer to the problem, they could probably figure out what the answer was. And so I thought that was a great reason to go to law school.
Very, very cool. All right. Well, small business owner, entrepreneur, how did that fit into?
Yeah. So, basically I was working for another law firm at the time, small firm. This was around the time of 08, 09 kind of financial meltdown, and it was a real estate firm. And so we had a lot of these real estate investors that came to us and needed help with these different properties that were underwater, that were, having problem going to foreclosure and stuff like that. And I was just kind of doing it independently on my own within this firm. And I was like, I could do this on my own. And I'd always been curious about starting my own business. And so I just kind of said, all right, I can do this on my own, and literally started my own firm. I got an office in the same building, one flight up. So my commute was exactly the same, except I went up one flight more. And some clients came over with me, and I put the word out, and other lawyers, to be helpful to me would refer business to me. And I just kind of made a go of it. And then my business kind of evolved from there. So I started a blog, I started a podcast, and eventually that became its own business in its own right. And there were other things that came out of it. So I started doing paid events, and I started selling digital courses, and I started selling, books and things like that that came out of the blog, came out of the podcast. And then eventually we came around to kind of where it started, which was the podcast and helping other businesses to create a podcast. And that's where we are today. And that's our focus today.
Yeah, that's awesome. So can you tell me a little bit about how you met your partner and how you guys first started helping the first few businesses and what that turned into?
Sure. Yeah. So my business partner and I, we'd kind of known each other through the world of podcasting. He'd started a podcast even before I did, back in 2009, 2010 time period. And actually he and I were both going to a conference, and he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm coming into town for this conference. Let's do a small event beforehand. Maybe like gather a dozen people together. We'll just exchange ideas, different business owners." So we ended up doing that. And it was a lot of fun. We just really enjoyed doing it. And so afterwards, during the conference, we kind of talked about it, and we decided to do another one and another one and another one. It kind of eventually became our business. And then fortunately, before COVID hit, before the pandemic, I'd had a couple of kids, and I was like, I don't want to travel around all the time and have to get on an airplane in order to, get a check, basically, to get paid. And so I knew we wanted to change our business somehow. And around the same time, a lot of people are asking us about podcasts, how to start one, how to make it profitable, how to help it support your B2B business. And so we started helping people, and it just kind of took off, and it became something that a lot of people wanted from us. And so that became our primary focus. So that's how we ended up starting this business.
That's so great. And so when you did that first one, or the second one, you helped that business, how hard was that for you guys to go from your own podcasting experiences to teaching them how to do it and make that successful for their own businesses?
Teaching them wasn't hard. So, talking with people about the strategy, talking with people about the, how to leverage it, answering basic questions, like, do I need a huge audience in order to do a podcast? Do I need a title? How do I do cover art? Those types of fundamentals was not hard. What was harder was realizing the other things that our clients needed in order to be successful. So now what we do is really three different things. It's strategy, accountability, and production. And we built the team on the production side, and it's gotten bigger and bigger. We've added more and more people, and that's created a lot of complexity. So that's been challenging. And then accountability is not easy too. How do you hold someone accountable? Some people like to be held accountable in different ways. How do you make sure that they get done what they need to get done in order to be successful at it? And especially if it's a mix of you doing it and them doing it. So those different pieces have been challenging, created its own challenges. And I don't think we do it perfectly. There are some clients that, need more and we don't do enough, or it's kind of an art, right? Of holding someone accountable. It's like a personal trainer. How does a personal trainer hold you accountable? Right. Like some do it better than others. Right. So that piece is a constant challenge to figure that out with each individual client. And just kind of like figuring out that our business needed these three different pieces: strategy, accountability, and production, in order to get the best results for our clients. It definitely took a few years to figure out that that's the right mix of different services that we needed for our clients.
And when your clients take off and go, do they usually find that they're able to surprisingly do this after you've walked them through it, somehow you're their partner?
Yeah.
Like, what's their reaction?
Yeah. I mean, that's gotta be the coolest parts, because, people have like certain objections. They have certain things that they think are going to hold them back. And, we can tell them beforehand that, that's not going to be a barrier. That's not going to be a challenge. You're actually going to get good at this, or you'll get better at it. And then seeing people actually get that, get better at that is really cool. Like a lot of people say like, oh, I don't have enough time to do this. Or, how am I going to get people to say yes to come be a guest on my podcast? And we help them through that. We help them, with ways to position it in order to get people to say yes, and who you should ask first to come on, and how you get them to introduce you to other people in their network, and how do you ask questions, and what should you do afterwards to follow up with that person and to deepen that relationship further so that you have other ways to collaborate. All those different things we help people with. And it's really cool to see people start to get that kind of traction. And then that's where, they can focus on the highest and best use of their time, which is just having great conversations, meeting new people, having, getting introductions to other people beyond that those past guests know. And then we can handle, our team handling the production, all that kind of stuff, can handle all the behind the scenes so that they can focus on the parts that they enjoy and the parts that they, are uniquely good at. And so, yeah, it's really enjoyable when we get into that phase of the working relationship together.
That is incredible. So how about for choosing interviewees? How do you do that? How do you choose an interviewee, and what is your hope for impacting the audience?
Well, so that's actually the first thing that we focus on, because ultimately, I say to people, your network will grow. And this gets back to networking, which you were talking about earlier. Your network will grow whether you do it intentionally or not, because we drop some people, we add some people, we meet new people, right? We get introductions to other people, go to a party, we meet someone, right? That's happening all the time, but we can be really deliberate about it. And so there are some people that start a podcast and don't really think that through. They just kind of willy-nilly take anyone. And that affects how your network grows. And if you've got objectives for your career, your business, or you want to be a judge, let's say that you want to have a big practice, whatever it is that you want to have for your career, you should be deliberate and intentional about it. You should look around in your community, whether you want to work your way up as an attorney or, maybe go in-house one day. Think about, what are your goals? Like, if you want to go in-house, well, maybe you should go, and there's no better use than I can think of your time, but interviewing, in-house counsel, right? And asking them about their journey, asking them about how they got where they are today, asking them what they would recommend that you should do. If they were in your shoes, what would they recommend that you do? That is a tremendously valuable use of your time. So who you should interview really is dependent on what your goals are. What do you want to do with your career? Where do you want to go? So that's where I start with everyone. Like, what are your goals?
That's a good, hard, and simple question.
Yeah. I mean, and it evolves and changes. Like, the other thing is that it might change from year to year, right? Like our preferences change, we decide that, this path isn't for me, like your passions change, your interests change, your life priorities change. So you have to constantly be going back and thinking that through again, and thinking like, is this serving me? Who are the people that I should be connecting with? And then looking for opportunities too. I mean, like, you might interview someone and then that person offers to introduce you to someone else who you didn't know before, didn't expect. And those kinds of cool opportunities come along, and you got to take those opportunities, but also while being clear on, what's the right opportunity for me? What's the goal? Like, what's the objective? Because I've been doing a podcast for now 12 years, and I have a lot of, PR people and book marketing people that send incoming emails, get dozens of them a week, and I mean, yeah, I could interview all those people, but is that the right goal, right? That's really serving their goals, not mine, right? Is that the types of people that I want to be networking with, want to build relationships, want to connect with? So you have to be a bit selfish, thinking about, what are the people that I want to really focus on?
That's great. That leads me to my next, question. What motivates and passion, or what motivates you, and what do you have passion for when it comes to these podcasts and your people that you're bringing on your podcast and sharing with the community?
Yeah. What motivates me? I mean, I love the team we built. So we've got some great people working for us who really enjoy what they're doing. So that's really motivated internally. Externally, helping, interesting clients and showing them the ways that they can, use a podcast in order to get access to people that they wouldn't otherwise get access to, deliver value to people in their network, deepen relationships with clients and referral partners and strategic partners, and really think about ways in which they can grow their network. That's super exciting for me. I mean, I say to our team sometimes that, it's like we are redefining the way that networking is done. Networking, part of the reason I think people get a negative connotation with that word is because they think of it as something that's manipulative or taking advantage of people, or so often you're asking people for a favor before you've given any value in, like, can you meet me for a informational coffee? Well, the successful partner that you ask to do that is busy. They charge a lot for their time. It's very difficult for them to do that. They have to drive across town, sit down for a coffee. Like, that's a very big inconvenience, and you are indebted to them when you're done. Versus using a tool like a podcast, you're actually delivering value to the other person. Even if you don't have a tremendous amount of exposure, you throw it up on YouTube, or you put it up on, Spotify or something like that. You're giving that person exposure. It's going to be up on the internet forever, right? So that's sharing their wisdom with the world. So you're actually giving value to someone rather than taking value to them, and from a networking standpoint, that's a much better strategy, right? Like, if you're going to network someone, if you can give them something, what ends up happening is you will get a lot of people who want to repay the favor. So, I found when I was doing this for my legal practice that it just ended up turning into more referrals, more introductions, more connections, meeting, great people, because I was leading with delivering value to people rather than trying to take something from people.
Yeah, what a great concept. You do think of those things as, I have to shake people's hands and they're going to sell me and that's it. But
right.
You.
Yeah. And I mean, I actually, I'm kind of a dork, but, before the pandemic, I liked going to stuff like that. I like meeting new people. Right. But having said that, I like an efficient use of my time. And if I can do it from my office and I can meet, what I found is that over time you meet more people, it's more targeted, and you build more relationships. If you use a tool like a podcast, you don't have to travel across town. You don't get stuck at like a networking event talking to someone that turns out is not a good fit at all, and you're not quite sure how to like get out of that conversation. Instead, you can be very deliberate and surgical almost in being deliberate about who you want to connect with. You could go to, like your school, like your alum could go and they could look at an alma mater list. They can look up like, who's someone I should connect with that went to the same university as me. That's a great strategy, right? You've got that in common, right? And then use that to network. Like you go and interview one of them and you say, hey, who's a classmate of yours who I should be talking to? And that they introduce you to 3 people, right? It really opens doors, and it's easier for people to make those introductions when it's for the purpose of content creation rather than it's for the purpose of inconveniencing the person on the other end who's going to have to do, an informational interview at a coffee shop or something like that.
It sounds horrible to me. I don't know why. I love meeting people too, but you're right. Coffee shop, waste your time. What if they are a horrible fit? It's true.
Right.
So how do you continue to learn and stay on top of your role, you and your partner, and what you do?
I mean, part of it is just like interviewing people for my podcast. I mean, that's probably like the best professional development tool I have out there is meeting interesting people and having the opportunity to ask them questions. I read a lot too. I listen to a lot of podcasts as well. I've kind of gone through different phases where there were periods of time where I didn't listen to a lot of podcasts. Now, I walk around with, I have it right now. I have like earbuds around my neck at all times that are charged and ready to go. And so if I'm walking to the car or I am doing the dishes, cleaning up around my house or anything, like I have dead time, I'm going to put the earbuds in and I'm going to listen to a podcast or listen to an audiobook or something like that. And that's how you can kind of squeeze in a lot, because I'm constantly, looking at, evolving changes because things are changing pretty rapidly. I feel like our technology, the COVID has accelerated the pace of change by many years. And so, if you're in the legal industry, if you're an attorney, if you're a legal professional, in particular, you have to be kind of aware of the changes that are happening. I mean, I graduated from law school in 2007, and many of my classmates went straight into document review. And that's largely been replaced. I mean, like, people don't do that as much anymore. There's optical character recognition, there's high-speed scanning, there's software that deals with that. Like, that entry level type of job, awful as it was, doesn't exist, which is a great thing. Actually, I'm glad that that's the case. So, but you got to be aware of these types of changes. I mean, this might sound like heresy to some other lawyers, but I think we're not far away from a world where it's like, you say to your Amazon Echo device, form me an LLC, write me a will, draft me an NDA, right? Yeah. I mean, it's not a leap of logic that that's going to happen at some point soon, right? And lawyers will hem and haw and say like, oh no, that can't work. No, that's not going to work. Like, we need lawyers. What's that?
And then they're going to use it. That's it.
Right. It's going to happen. Right. I mean, that's what people said about LegalZoom and, things like that. I mean, people, but it'll happen. It'll change. So you got to be aware of these types of changes that are happening.
How interesting is that? Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So what business, like what business would go to you for podcasting? What could it be? Could it be anywhere from the, like the college, like myself? Could it be, other than law firms, a market down the street? Like, who would do this?
Yeah. Yeah.
For any type of new and fun way to advertise, who would do this?
Well, a variety of different types from a business perspective, there are hobbyists, there's professional, there's entertainment production companies in Hollywood that are creating podcasts. So it's an emerging medium. There's a lot of changes that are happening. At our company, we only really work with B2B companies. So that's law firms, consulting firms, agencies, digital agencies a lot. We've got a Berkshire Hathaway company we're working with, e-commerce consultants. We work with companies like that have got a high client lifetime value because, if they go and they interview their clients, they spend let's say a half a year interviewing their clients, give them a great experience, have a great conversation, learn about challenges that they have. I guarantee you're going to experience what I did from my very first podcast, which is, you have a conversation with your client, you find out what they're challenged by, and some of them at the end of that conversation are going to say, hey, there's something else you could help me with. Can you help me with this other thing? And pretty soon, look, you've gotten some more business out of it. So you're creating content, you're delivering value to and exposure to that client or referral partner or strategic partner or local business or whatever. You're building a deeper connection. And in many cases, if you do it right, that will lead to great things. It will lead to more referrals. It will lead to more business in the door. It will lead to more clients. It will lead to more strategic partnerships. So I tell people all the time, it's one of the best things that you can do. And you're learning at the same time. You're educating yourself at the same time. All those things are happening at the same time. So it's really a good use of your time.
Yeah. Meeting new people. I love that part. When you have different people on your interview, you're always learning something from somebody, no matter what it is.
Yeah. I mean, this conversation right now, I mean, like, constantly it's an excuse to have a conversation. It's an excuse to connect with someone and who knows where it leads. Like that's what I found. I mean, I've literally been to people's weddings who I connected with through podcasting. I've been to their wedding. They invited me to their wedding, and like all kinds of amazing, meals at conferences and strategic partnerships and client engagements and all kinds of stuff like that. So I'm first and foremost, I'm an evangelist for the medium. I tell people all the time that, it's a great thing to do. And my company, we're small. We're not like a big company. We can't help every company out there. So I tell people all the time, like, I hope you will do it, regardless of whether we help you, whether we work together or not. I hope you will do it.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so tell us more about where we can find you.
Oh, thank you. Rise25.com is our website. My podcast is called Smart Business Revolution. You can check on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, any of the different podcasting channels. Smartbusinessrevolution.com is also the website for my podcast. And you can grab me on LinkedIn, go to John Corcoran on LinkedIn, and send me a note. I'd love to connect with anyone.
And now also tell me, What are the next few big projects that you and your partner would like to do with Rise? Anything big?
Well, yeah, good question. Right now we're working on a book. It's been a while since we put out a book, so we are actually going to be creating a book that will be kind of sharing our approach to relationship building through podcasts. So that should be out sometime later in the year. And that's the main thing that we're focused on. Other than that, it's just, onboarding clients, building a great team, building a great remote virtual workforce and culture. Those are the things we're focused on.
That's incredible. And I have a veteran series started with the Legal Networking Forum. So I'm super involved in this. We're doing it once a month, and I would love to invite you guys to join. And I'd like for you to share why I want to invite you to join.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, and I've interviewed a number of veterans on my podcast. I think I mentioned to you before, we've had a veteran entrepreneur scholarship, which was a lot of fun, where when we were doing these in-person events and we had all these amazing VIPs there, we created a scholarship which we funded for veteran entrepreneurs to come in who are more like getting started, and we gave them access to this room full of incredible entrepreneurs. And that was really a lot of fun. So that's really cool that you're doing this veteran initiative as well. As veterans come back from the many different wars that have been going on over the last 20 years, they need our help and support. So if they go to our website, they can check it out there, rise25.com/about. They can check it out there. And we have a couple of different kind of charitable initiatives that we're working on at any one time. So it depends on when they go to check it out. But they can go and learn more there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Everybody go check them out. It's awesome. I love
Thanks,
it.
Christine.
Rise 25.
Thank you.